It's been 2 years since the first trailer for Age of Empires 4 dropped, and last week at XO19, we finally got something new. While labeled a gameplay trailer, it was more of a cinematic machinima than presenting actual gameplay. With the dust settled on XO19 and interviews from Relic gone out to the public, there's actually a decent bit of information on the game, albeit very shallow, not a lot of details. So let's dive in and take a look at 5 things we now know about Age of Empires 4. We already know from the trailer that AoE 4 will be set, for the most part, in the medieval era. It will also still feature 4 ages like its predecessors. However, as noted by game director Adam Isgreen, the starting age will begin earlier, and the ending age will end later than Age of Empires 2. It began in the Dark Age, somewhere around the 5th to 6th century for AoE 2, and anything earlier means we could see some remnants of the late Roman Empire as a starting point, which presents some very interesting artistic ideas for age progression. The last age was the Imperial Age, and anything beyond that would be somewhere in the 17th to early 18th century, perhaps leading right up to the Victorian era. What we are seeing then is a much more expansive timeline, more along the lines of Empire Earth than traditional Age of Empires, which is something I certainly won't complain about. Despite Age of Empire 2 Definitive Edition now having 35 civilizations, a vast majority of them follow most of the exact same tech tree, making them less unique in their early game than branching out in their own fields in the late game. This won't be happening in AoE 4. The number of civs hasn't been confirmed yet, but according to Isgreen, they'll all be vastly different from the get-go. In the trailer, for instance, the English might feel similar to the Britons from AoE 2, and they certainly are. However, the Mongols will play completely different, though in what ways they be different were not detailed. Civilizations will also range in playable difficulty, from easily understood if you played an Age of Empires game to you need to learn a lot to really play these ones well. And this fits great into Civ Diversity, and this is honestly one of Relic's strong points. Games like Company of Heroes and Dawn of War had civilizations that played very differently from each other, and this I feel will definitely lend a hand for Age of Empires. Capitalizing on the differences in civilizations as well as the age progression, it's been confirmed that there are 4 resources that all civilizations will use in the game, yet certain civs will use them in a different order and for very different things. And even in terms of age progression, not all of the civs will play by the 4-age rule, with a new aspect of aging from a point of view that has apparently never been seen in an RTS game before. I can't really see Relic changing on what resources are being used, so it's likely we'll still see some form of food, wood, gold, and stone for AoE 4. What will be really interesting is to see what Isgreen means by not following the rules. Will certain civilizations only be able to progress to the 3rd age, or will you have some that automatically start at a later age than others? Equally as interesting is this new point of view Relic is implementing for this game. Not really sure just how you could create a never before seen feature in a series this old, in a genre this old, so hopefully it's not something overhyped from Relic. Let me know what you'd like to see in terms of civilizations playing outside the standard rules in this context by commenting down below. Staying true to the series, there will of course be several campaigns for you to play in AoE 4. Hours-long games with their giant cities and epic battles are going to stay as well, and it's something that Relic sees as a factor of Age of Empires that they just couldn't lose. To stay current with players having more modern sensibilities, however, Isgreen let it be known that they are working on several different game modes. The details of such game modes were not discussed, but it sounds like much shorter style modes are going to be in the works, maybe something like a Battle Royale.
Oh, hell no.
Onto details of gameplay, it has been confirmed that units will indeed be able to stand and fight on walls, giving rise to new ways of sieging. You can fight on the walls or tear them down to create gaps in the defenses, as well as other new style siege mechanics that were not talked about further. The emphasis throughout the trailer on topography and terrain height could mean we'll see some Shogun 2 style battles, introducing downhill momentum or uphill disadvantages when fighting, something that could go a long way to improve Age of Empires. And even the small base of Mongols in their trailer possibly suggests that they and other civilizations could introduce a mobile, nomadic style settlement system, creating some new strategies for the series as well. With no set release date currently, there are still some release details provided during the expo. It will release on Xbox Game Pass, meaning you won't actually have to buy the full game if you've subscribed to the service. There will be no microtransactions or in-game purchases, as, quote, that doesn't belong in a strategy game, according to Isgreen. I honestly don't know what you could even put in Age of Empires that would call for anything microtransaction anyways, but I guess it's gotta be said in this day and age of video games. The composer for Witcher 3 is heading up the music for Age of Empires 4. Personally, that soundtrack is one of my all-time favorites. I listen to it all the time, so this has me very excited for the soundtrack of AoE 4. And lastly, there's already DLC planned, but not in the way you'd expect. The content of DLCs is partly up to what the community wants, and surprisingly, it might not always contain civilizations. Isgreen and his team spoke to a lot of the pro players for AoE 2 and discovered that new civs were rarely what they actually wanted, especially considering they were all pretty much the same. New game modes, new mechanics, and things of that nature are more what Relic are looking to get into a future DLC. As a community, we have a voice to mold what the future of the game looks like, at least that's what they say. And that's all for the things we now know about Age of Empires 4. Again, nothing very deep, but that's to be expected at the moment. And still, there's some great food for thought discussion. So give me your thoughts, give me your theories, and give me your concerns in the comments section below. If you're new to the channel, these videos are a large part of what my channel does, so subscribe if you enjoyed it, and click on the bell so you can get notified when a new video goes live. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for all things Age of Empires 4 and strategy. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next video.